Hi guys, and welcome back to World of Tanks, and today we're going to be looking at the new British Tier 8 Premium Medium Tank, the Centennial Chieftain 95, and well, I like the look of it. I must admit I do. There's been a lot of people that have been saying that they don't like the sandbags and the barbed wire, but the reason it's been put on there is because it was 100 years ago this year. In fact, I think it was possibly somewhere around this time that the very first tanks rolled out onto the battlefield, and that was of course the Mark 1, which is the special event. So World War One, it was plagued by trench warfare, covered in sandbags, barbed wire, absolutely covered no man's land, and they needed something to get across. So the bright sparks at engineering, or wherever they were, came up with the tank, and it's all come from there really. So the Centennial T95 is quite pricey. Let's have a look. Right, you're looking at 13,500 for the ultimate bundle, with 3 pieces of equipment, a mix of shells, some 3x boosts, and obviously an ASOP as well. And then you've got the mega bundle where it's bundled up with the T34 85, and that's 19,600. So essentially, as far as I'm aware, it is the hull of the Tier 10 Chieftain with exactly the same armour, and it's the turret from the American Premium, the T95 E2, which we haven't seen on the PlayStation 4 yet, but I think you guys have on the 360. Some of you may even have one. It's equipped with a rifled 90mm with pretty average penetration for a 90mm, 202 I believe it is. Yep, 202, 7.23 rounds a minute, so slightly on the slow side for the rate of fire. 238 on your premium rounds, which I feel is a little bit low. This does see up to Tier 10, and you will struggle against Tier 10s from the front. You definitely have to flank them. You can hit weak spots, but at 0.36 it can troll you a little bit when you're trying to aim for them. 2.2 aiming time, which is pretty average. And yeah, you do. There's the odd Tier 9 that you'll struggle against from the front as well. Now, 85mm of armour on the front. These are the basic numbers now. 85mm of armour on the front, 51 on the sides, a very poor 25 on the rear. The turret is 254 on the front, 89 on the sides, and 51 on the rear, but this doesn't tell the whole story, so let's have a look at the nice new stats. So we've got maximum speed of 42 kilometers an hour, 750 horsepower engine. It even includes some of your camouflage bonus in there as well, and your reload time, which is quite useful, at 8.3 seconds. So if we have a look at the modules, because you can't view a tank's modules unless you own it, so I'm about to give away the secrets now, so pay attention. Right, you've got your engine at the back. It doesn't give you engine health or anything like that. It just gives you well, it does give you power ratio, which is fantastic, 15, which is not bad actually. It's pretty nimble. And forward speed, like I say, 42 kilometers an hour, and reverse speed, which is new, 15 kilometers an hour, which isn't bad. Gun there, well obviously we know where the gun is. Tracks, there are gaps in between, and there are ammo racks behind there, which I'll show you now. Turret, there's your radio in case you want to isolate them, but I don't know anybody that does. And here we are, ammo racks, 2 in the front. How very British of us. You've got 1 on the left hand side of the tank there that you could probably get through the side of the hull. 1 around the middle that you could get to through that gap in the tracks, so it's that sort of back middle wheel. And you've got another one on the left side back of the turret. And then the crew, there you go, driver right in the front, commander in the machine gun cupola as normal, load it and gun it. Let's have a quick look at the armour profile so we can get a proper idea of what the armour's like on this. So we have the sandbags do seem to act as spaced armour, as do the side skirts, which is quite nice. It has helped me with RT, and I think they may have eaten a shot as well from an E50. So yeah, the sandbags, I'm quite happy with those. They do serve a purpose, they're not just decoration, and that is quite good. Like I say, I think it saved me from RT in one of the matches. So tracks count as 21 to 30mm of spaced armour. There is no exact numbers, which is a little bit frustrating, so you do have to sort of take a rough estimate. Top of the turret and the rear back sides there of the hull are fairly weak at 30. Well, fairly weak, quite weak, 31 to 50. You've then got some small side areas on the turret there, and that little patch on top, but that is covered by the sandbags, and they are 51 to 70, and you'll see the turret is quite a hodgepodge of armour. Now, it is only 85 on the upper plate, but it is very, very well sloped, and I've had a few good bounces off that, but you do have to manage your lower plate very, very well. More sort of weird patches of armour on the cheeks of the hull there, as you can see, and little bits of patches over the turret, and they're 91 to 120. 121 to 160, just at the front there underneath the turret ring, and just to the sort of sides of the front of the turret. And then the turret cheeks, if you were, 161 to 190, and then you've got most of the armour just around the gun, and actually just at the front of the turret ring, which is quite nice because it means that you hopefully won't get it jammed from the front quite as easily. So there you go, I've shown you the armour profiles, I've shown you where the modules are. Let's have a think. Oh, gun depression, -9, which is a little bit disappointing for a British / American vehicle. Sort of hybrid. They are both known for having quite good gun depression, and I think it is +19 on the gun elevation, which is not bad. Again, pretty average. Equipment, I've gone for vents, gun rammer and vertical stabilizer, and pain tolerance actually came on the crew. Now, the penetration actually stacks up quite favourably with a lot of the other sort of tier 8s and tier 8 premiums that do have the 90mm, so all round it kind of feels like, to me, a Centurion Mark 1 with beefed up armour, beefed up turret armour, and beefed up and very well angled hull armour as well. But you do have to manage that lower plate, like I've said before, and you do have to watch that machine gun turret weak spot on the top. But it does have some sandbags kind of covering it slightly, which occasionally do seem to eat the odd shot, and I think that pretty much covers it. Basically, you want to try and get yourself hull down as much as possible, and yeah, try and flank some of the sort of tier 9s and 10s if you can. But like I say, it does feel very much like a beefed up sort of Centurion, so just with slightly worse gun handling but a lot more armour. Anyway, enough of me rambling on. Let's get into a couple of matches and see how it actually plays. Right, so this first clip is a bit of a short one, and it was one of the first couple of matches that I played in it, and it's a tier 9 match, I think it is. And what I thought to do was basically play aggressively and see what it can and can't do, what the armour can take, what it can't take, you know, try and figure out what sort of range you need to stick at with this thing. And here's the E50M, and he takes a shot at the front, and I'm not sure if that's a bug or whether it's just it did hit the sandbags and they absorbed it, but you can see there obviously no damage. Now it hits me there somewhere around my gun, damages it and takes some life off, some health off the tank, and another hit there that I took. So you see, aiming down on the hull he's able to penetrate, 'cause it is only 85mm, but at mid sort of range, yeah, you'll take bounces all day long. In fact, you can get away with it a little bit closer than mid-range actually as well. But there are a couple of weak spots on the turret, as you saw there. But it was just basically a test. Be aggressive, see what it can and can't take. Can you get up close to people and still get away with it with that frontal armour? Ish. But I'd say probably best off staying at mid-range. Anyway, first proper match. And not a great match, I'll be the first one to say that. Not a brilliant match at all, but again, it shows you sort of some of the strengths and weaknesses of this tank. It took me a couple of games, well, say a couple of games, half a dozen games to figure it out, and to be honest, in a hold down position, it's very good, although you do have to keep moving. That machine gun turret on the top is a bit of a, well, reminds me a little bit of that tumour on top of the M3 Lee's, that little turret on the top of that. But it's not too savage, it's keep it moving. You've got the sandbags there, it's fairly well angled, but you do have to be careful of it, I'd say, and be wary. And like I say, you know, I said it in the garage, it does kind of play or feel like a really buffed Centurion, and it does seem to have pretty damn good terrain resistances as well. Like the Centurion, it doesn't seem to slow down much over different types of terrain. You tend to just not go your top speed, but not far off, no matter what sort of terrain you're on, which is kind of good. But yeah, tier 8 match, standard battle, Corellia, and we'll see a few bits of what it can and can't do. And again, this was early on in playing it, I think, when I was still sort of figuring it out. Figuring out whether I could play aggressively, whether I could get really, you know, really up close like you can in some mediums, like the Motherland. That's quite a good close range fighter, I find, as well. This one can be, depending on what you're facing. But I'd say I've had more success with this at sort of medium range. Finished off the CDC. Just as I fired, the T94 pulled back there and just hit his gun. I can get one into his side though there, and he bounces off me. And again, what you're going to find, there we go, just finish off the T44, or what I've tended to find with this tank is that it punishes people who rush their shots at you. Anything poorly aimed or rushed, they just get punished and it tends to bounce. But I cannot stress enough that you have to keep your bottom plate hidden or well angled. You've got to manage it. You've got, what I mean by that is, you know, your weak spot management. You've got to do that with the bottom plate on this. I'd say that is possibly your biggest weak spot, even more so than that machine gun turret on top of your main turret there. So I'm going to try and pop around the back, and I was going to try and hit that Jagdpanther 2 from behind, but you have to be ever so careful of everybody camping the enemy base, because this is random battles, and what do people like to do in random battles? Camp. Yep, heavies like to camp. There's KV2 camping back there. I mean, admittedly, it's a tier 6 and a tier 8 match, but I'd be a bit more aggressive than that. In fact, I normally am in my KV2. Although I did have to sell it to fund another tank. I know, sacrilege, I need to get it back. I managed to take care of Artie there, put one into the side of the KB, pull back as the Rheinmetall Borsig puts one through my lower plate. And I think the KB just missed, and I managed to get another one into the side of him. And he's dead. Right, now then, there we go. The first RT, I don't know if my tracks ate it or the sandbags did. The second one got me, and I think I took another hit from, I don't know if it was the Rheinmetall Borsig or if it was, I think there's an AT over there as well. But yeah, you got to be careful. You got to stay back when you're attacking the base on this side of Corellia. I mean, I've seen stupider things sniping. I've seen E75s camping the hill thinking they're a sniper on Derpenberg, and in fact I'm sure many of you have. Right, let's use this cover. Try and keep some hard cover in between me and wherever I think that Rheinmetall Borsig and the other tank destroyer are. Oh, there's the FV402P, and yeah, he pens. Damages my ammo rack because there's two in the front of this. I managed to return firing, penetrate, but that's it, and I'm done for. And as you can see, he had the elevation on me, and he could either put it through my lower plate or my upper plate because he was higher up. You've got to be careful of people that are higher, got a higher elevation over you, definitely in this, because well, like I say, you've only got 85mm of that frontal armour, and although it is very, very well sloped, if they're above you, that slope is lessened, and they can probably penetrate it quite easily. Anyway, that's about it. The match, it's not far from over. We're at 10-6, so I think I'll just skip to the end now. And there you go. Not a brilliant match, like I say. Blocked 1200 damage, only managed 1794, which isn't particularly good. The Centennial drop did give me an XP boost, which is why I've got a particularly high amount of XP, but only came third on the table. But out of the 7 hits that I took, 3 of them bounced, I think it was. So not too savage. It's a decent enough gun. It's a pretty standard 90mm gun. I think, like I said in the garage, it's pretty standard amongst a lot of the tier 8s and tier 8 premiums with the 90mm, although slightly less penetration. Right, on to the next one, another tier 8 battle, highway and encounter battle this time, and yeah, I've not been having the best day in this so far. I've had some decent games, struggled a little bit in the tier 10 games with it, just trying to figure it out. I got most of the tier 10 games just after I bought the tank, which was unfortunate, so as I'm still trying to figure it out and how it plays and how it works and how effective its armour it is, yeah, here you go sunshine, have some tier 10s. And not just like a couple of tier 10s, like let's have 2/3 of both teams tier 10s, those sorts of matches. I don't know what it is recently through the day actually. It tends to be nobody playing tier 8, loads of people playing tier 9 and 10, and loads of people playing sort of tier 7 and below, but no tier 8s. So if you do play tier 8, you take your life into your hands, and more than likely you're going to be in a heavily tier 9 or 10 match, which isn't too bad in some tier 8s, I don't mind that. In other tier 8s, it just makes me want to cry. But anyway, enough of my unfortunate matchmaking, let's get back to this. And I mean, I showed you that short clip at the beginning which shows you what happens if you go toe to toe with some of the tier 9s. You know, they will more than likely be able to find a weak spot on you to pen. But this shows you kind of what can happen when you're top tier. And also because I've been figuring the tank out a little bit more at this point, I'm starting to use it, I'd say a bit more how it should. Not so much as a sniper. I think I'm a little bit further out than you really need to be, especially like I say when you're top tier. And I can imagine this thing, if you get fully hull down in it, I can imagine it being a bit like a T29 to get through, or a Conqueror, especially if you use a sort of back slope and angle your turret a bit more like you can do in the Conqueror, just to hide that, or try and hide that machine gun turret on top a bit more. Now we've got a couple of shots coming in from a knight, but I don't really have to worry about that unless I give him my side. That's why I'm just pulling back. I know roughly which direction he's in, so I'm going to get a building in between me and him. Let's see if I can get some shots in on that IS-3. Managed to get one through the back of him. I think the first one I shot him just hit the tracks. And that one just bounced or got eaten by his spaced armour. They are tricky buggers on the side. And that one went through just before somebody else hit him, and that finished him off. Now there's a Type 59 down there that's been taking a beating. There's a tank destroyer just behind me who I think is giving him a bit of attention, and there's another tank destroyer in H6 which I think is giving him a bit of attention. Yeah, I think he's dead now. So that's why I'm going to come down this end of the map. I know it's an encounter. I know the base is in that bottom corner, down on the southwestern side. But the enemy team, they started to flank. Not many. And to be honest, if they'd have made a bit more of a push flanking up this way, with a couple of, with a couple of mediums and a heavy or something like that, there's a good chance they could have overrun us over here if they'd have just made, well, not a couple of mediums and a heavy, but just, a few more. If they'd have made a bit more of a concerted push this way, as opposed to the heavies hanging back over on the other side, they could have actually overwhelmed this flank and come round and basically done what I'm going to do. And, yeah, put one into the night, left him on low health, and I'm reloading, but I'm a bigger, heavier tank. So, ramming speed. Right, now, I'm just looking at the bottom corner on the map at this point, because obviously the enemy are capping, and I was just thinking, do I need to rush? But I'm looking at the amount of tanks that are there, and I can see that it's paused now and been reset, so I think I'm pretty safe. And that's why I stopped to take care of this Tiger. I thought there's enough people down there, they'll be able to reset the cap, and if not, then depending on how many people are in the cap, fingers crossed, I'll be quick enough to rush down there and hopefully help out. Get a bit closer to see that Tiger, spotting for myself, finish him off. That's the one that was shooting at from the other side of the river, I think, a while ago. Yeah, and that Type 59 was still alive. But as you can see, I've not really taken much damage. I've not really been shot at, to be honest, I don't think. And like I say, there wasn't really much resistance on that flank. We've got an AT7 up here. He's definitely got enough pen to get through my lower plate. And like I say, possibly that machine gun turret. I think I might have to do a sort of second part to this, where I'm going to go into the training room, get my wife to go near Liberté or something and start testing out the actual armour effectiveness. She's been out all day today, so that's why I've not done it today. Now the AT7 has got a machine gun just on that side of the hull there, which is a massive weak spot, and if you can't keep that hidden round a building or something like that, then you're in a lot of trouble. Anything with a couple of hundred pen will punch straight through it. So that's the AT taken care of now, and we've got one more tank destroyer who's down there, and two more heavies who are down there, so I've got a pretty safe run to get into the town and try and help that guy out, who seems to be getting surrounded a bit. I mean, there's a light tank coming in, but it's very close quarters for a light tank. You'd have to be very, very careful in there. And it's not like he can use his speed and manoeuvrability to sort of get away and get around them. He's going to have to sort of pop in and out, and yeah, unfortunately that's what tends to happen when you take light tanks into a town against heavies. I mean, I'm not judging him, he's basically trying to help out. You know, fair play to him. We had to reset the cap, and I just popped one into the Tiger 2 to finish him off, and it's just mopping up at this point. I do feel a bit like a dirty kill stealer. Put one into the hammer to finish him off, and then I've just got the Sturry meal left. Can I reload before he gets a shot off at me? Yep, I can. And that gave me my Top Gun, I think. First Top Gun in it, which isn't bad. I only got it this morning. Although those last three, like I say, they were just kind of mopping up. But yeah, that's a bit better damage. 2,797. 1,000 assisted, but only blocked 365. And a first class mastery. Oh, that's all the various ops. I got an extra 50% silver. Down to that Talk to Me Goose, I think it was, for getting the Top Gun. It doesn't seem to have a massive silver bonus on this. That's something I did forget to put on. In fact, I might just have to have a look at that now and put it on earlier on in the video. So if I did manage to do it, you'll have already seen the silver bonus earlier on in the video. If I didn't, I'll put it in the second part. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope it's been useful, and as always, I'll catch you next time. See you later.